Written by Fresh Fries 111. I need to be quick. I don't have much time before they come back. I am part of an experiment, and I don't know where I am, but I need to know that someone, somewhere is looking for me. Please, I keep a log of my days in a journal, but they cannot find out that I have access to a computer. Please, anyone, look for me. I can't take this anymore. The last thing I saw before getting thrown overboard was their hands tying the blocks of cement to my feet. Next thing I knew, the sounds from above were muffled by the water surrounding me. Down, down, down I went, legs first into the dark depths below. The light from under the boat shone, refracting in the water. I knew I should have held my breath, but I couldn't help but scream in my struggle to break free from the blocks, dragging me down deeper. I felt pain like nothing I had felt before, as water filled my lungs, suffocating me. My ears popped from the change in pressure, and I knew that soon my lungs would explode too. Explode they did, and I felt every ounce of pain. But I knew I wouldn't die. I'm not like everyone else, you see. I was born, but not to die. And I've been subjected to a life of pain without end. My body is used over and over again to see the things that you cannot see and do the things that you cannot do. I didn't ask them to make me this way, but I still am used in their experiments to better the world. There are some things this world is better off not knowing. As the water enveloped me, I saw the last bit of light from the surface disappear. My body was mangled from what I could tell, although I couldn't feel parts of it where the nerves had died. It was pitch black, and I couldn't even tell if my eyes were closed or not. The ocean is a scary place, deeper than you could ever imagine. The things that live below the waters have been there longer than you have, longer than man has or ever will be. These things are very much alive and real, and it is only the distance that keeps you from ever coming into contact with them. They cannot survive up there, and you will not survive down here. Very soon I started to feel movement in the water around me. Things that I couldn't see were writhing around, touching my body, and in the dark there's no telling what it actually is. With my ears destroyed, I couldn't even hear anything in the water around me. All I could do was feel the sensations of the creatures. The writhing grew denser and denser, and very soon I was completely engulfed in it. I could feel it pulsating around me. I could feel its heartbeat, proof that whatever it was alive. The thing wrapped itself around me tighter and tighter, and mashed me between its appendages. The moment I felt the pressure get the tightest, I was back in the lab, soaking wet and naked. The scientists and doctors gathered around me in the stunning bright light. They inspected me for any damage, but as always, there was none. They questioned me about what I saw and felt below, but they didn't seem satisfied with my limited answers. I had said all that I could, but it wasn't enough. Tomorrow they will throw me overboard again. This time with a light fastened to me to see. The doctors know that I feel every bit of pain, but they do not care anymore. I am not human to them. After all, being part of human is dying. They've even tried all the ways they could think of to kill me in between their experiments to explore the world. I've been mutilated, taken apart piece by piece, to see if it will kill me. Please, stranger, I know I'm not the same as you, but I am going insane in here. Written by Capable Solid. The last time I was out in that deep, inky blue void was 2 years ago. Today was the anniversary of that final dive, that last descent into the abyss. John, my diving buddy, who I had known for several years now, was preparing the sub for the dive. It was a good size, not huge, but large enough to accommodate up to 4 crew members. The ASP. The sub's captain, Pierre, was an experienced pilot. John had known him for some time, but I had only recently met him. He seemed like a nice, albeit tense, person. He was our replacement captain, as our previous one, Luke Dorino, had passed from a stroke 3 weeks prior. Our oxygen tanks and emergency beacon were set, as well as our wetsuits. But Pierre seemed hesitant.
What's holding you up, Pierre? Scared of going down a little further than usual?
No, it's just, I got a feeling that something ain't right.
Pierre said, his calm voice subtly breaking. He never got scared about diving. What could get him so nervous? John leapt into the sub's top hatch, followed by Pierre and finally me. As John fastened the hatch, Pierre started the engine of the sub. The initial descent was like usual, scattered fish and plants, eventually giving way to sandy dunes and sparse rocks. After about 20 minutes, we reached our true starting point, an almost sheer drop-off into an inky black chasm.
Ready?
John said, the slightest tone of nervousness in his voice.
Ready as I'll ever be,
I replied. Pierre throttled the descent valves to full, and we started dropping. Pierre toggled the headlights, and John started towards the camera station. I looked through the porthole and was met with nothing but darkness. We hit the bottom of the ocean sooner than I would have thought. And John got to work manning the camera drone. I scoped out the area with the sonar ping, and Pierre messed with the front panels on the sub. After only about half an hour after we touched down, John alerted me to something on the camera screen. At first it was just another shapeless blob, until John toggled the light. Suddenly, the bow end of a massive ship appeared on the screen. A mostly decayed wreck. Looked like it was World War II era in design, with a barely legible USS Cantanova plastered along its side. Excited, I rushed to Pierre to tell him about the find. It was only about 150 feet away from the sub, and our deep-sea dive suits were prepped and ready. Reluctantly, he agreed to pilot the sub closer, but no more than 50 feet away from the wreckage. John and I suited up and locked the main watertight bulkhead. As we exited the sub, total darkness surrounded us, only being pierced by our comparatively dim light beams emanating from our chest lights. As we approached the Cantanova, Pierre's voice crackled over our radios.
Make sure that you don't get stuck in there. I'm not gonna save your asses if you get lost.
John turned on his radio.
We'll try not to. Over and out.
As we stood at the bow of the ship, something struck me as off. The ship didn't seem to have any damage on the visible side it was leaning on. There could have possibly been damage on the other side, but if it were sunk by a torpedo, wouldn't there be damage on each side? I shuddered at the thought of something colossal dragging the ship down into the depths. We climbed up the bow-mounted ladder and reached the deck of the ship. Massive cannons pointed sideways, presumably aimed at an enemy warship. But something was wrong. The guns were pointed up, not down. What would a battleship be aiming at with guns raised out here in the open Atlantic waters? I was lost in thought because John had to snap me out of my blank stare. He had found something that he said demanded my attention. I thought I was seeing things because what I was looking at couldn't be real. It had what I presumed to be wings, 4 of them, each one tipped with a large, sickle-shaped claw. Its body was large, serpentine in shape, long and sleek. But what caught me most off guard, besides there being a massive, unknown beast hunting at the ocean floor, was its head. It had the shape of a turtle with an elongated snout, filled with thousands of perfectly straight, needle-like teeth. It had 6 large black eyes, and a large mass at the tip of its snout. That's when I realized it. The ship was attempting to fight this beast. As I stood in awe, a low rumble shook the deck of the ship. John and I stumbled, and as we got to our feet, we saw something moving from within the unknown creature's chest. We stumbled backwards, eventually bumping into the side rails. The chest cavity of the monster burst open, revealing hundreds of crab-like creatures, each one about the size of a dog. Large, pincer-like claws snapping at the now exposed skin, with 4 spine-covered legs scuttling about the creature. We wasted no time running towards the asp, yelling at Pierre to get the sub started. As we continued running, a screech rattled us. Pierre heard it too, and it sent shivers down all our spines. As Pierre started the asp's engine, we saw them scrambling towards the sub. Pierre pulled up on the ascent throttle valves, and we shot upwards. A few of the creatures lashed onto the sub, but the change in pressure must have killed them, because we heard many pops as we rose towards higher ocean levels. John stared at the cameras pointed downwards and saw something horrific. The one that was thought to have been crushed by the Cantonova was rising, its chest skin loosely flapping as it chased us upwards, the large head being revealed to be decomposed, exposing the skull and rotted muscle. It roared a shrill, guttural screech before accelerating towards us. As it sped up, I had the idea of deploying the emergency beacon. I lowered the lever guard and slammed the lever down. A small metal case ejected from the bottom of the craft, the bright red signaling light and high-pitched frequency sound drawing the thing's attention from us, choosing to chase the beacon rather than the asp. We broke the surface about a minute later, and after about 30 minutes we reached the sub-pen. We scrambled to the floor of the pen and bolted to the shore. As we ran, we collapsed. Pierre threw up and John was crying. I couldn't comprehend what just happened. A massive animal, crushed by a warship, ripped open by parasites, still had enough energy to chase after a submarine rising through the ocean. If a near fully decomposed beast could do that, not to mention survive for almost a century on small fish, I could never even imagine what a complete beast could do. Now, 2 years later, I still fear the sea. I haven't returned since. John has a family now, but he came along to visit the pen. Pierre retired, and with him the asp. The parasites had done irreparable damage to the bottom of the sub, and after later inspection, it was a miracle we made it to the surface, let alone the sub-pen. Even though it's been 2 years, when I stand alone on the docks along the ocean, I swear I can still hear that shrill screech, reminding me that however much we want to explore, some things shouldn't ever be discovered.